Okay, so once you have all of the pieces laid out, you can see I just kind of have them scattered everywhere. Go ahead and scale the arm hand down a little bit. Now we want to create the mirror image of our geometry. So I'm going to delete the history, and I want to make sure I'm going to go into the front view. Let me pull this off. And I want to go into the front view and make sure that everything is lined up. So grabbing the points in the middle, I'm going to hold down X and snap them to the center. You can see if they don't snap, go into your move snap settings and turn off retain component spacing. Make sure you're in a world axis. And you can see there, we can snap them directly to the center line. And I'm just moving them in a single axis, holding down X. Same thing up here. And all of these points down here. And let's now check it and just see if there's anything off. I think that looks pretty good. Okay. So we've got our object. We've got the UV seams on there. We've got all the UV shells laid out for half of it. Now we can go ahead and mirror it. And so let's go to mesh, mirror. I want to make this merge threshold pretty low, maybe 1 or 0.5. So nothing is merged that shouldn't be merged. And now we're going to have duplicate UV shells for this. Before we modify this, I am going to come in here on the right, on his right side, and get rid of this by hitting Control Delete, and this one I will Control Delete, and then I'm just going to take this edge and slide it kind of up here. Same thing here. Okay, so now we have, like I said, two halves, and so let's go to the torso. So here's our torso. If we grab this and move it, you can see there's actually two right on top of each other. If we go into shaded UVs, you can see one's red and one's blue. The copy, or the side that we mirrored, is red. And so I want to take this piece right here, go to modify, and we'll flip it so it's blue. And now we're going to come down to the center line on the front. I'm going to get back into my UV tools, and I'm going to stitch those together. And so that gives us one complete mesh for the torso. And there may be areas where we need to come in and sew those together. But now we can unfold that, and it gives us our torso. All right. Now the shells for the pieces that aren't connected, we can flip them, but we don't have to connect them. So this arm, we can flip it. Okay, so there's two. We can flip it so they're both blue, but there's nothing to connect. We don't have to connect them. So now we're going to pull off all these shells, going to flip those, and then connect them if they are connected in the real world of our scene. And so here it's going to be right along here. And then we can unfold that, get our pants. And then here, let's pull off the leg and flip the other one. Okay, you're going to have to do the same thing with the claws. You can flip those. The sash we'll need to flip and connect. So we'll stitch that together and unfold. The band, we don't have a band on the other side, so we'll leave that separate. And then this part actually goes with the arm, the other arm, and so we can attach it to the arm geometry, which would be in here, this one. So I'll go ahead and flip it, and then I'm going to cut it where that seam is going to be, stitch it around to the other side, and then we can just pop it right on the end here. Kind of sew all those together. And then the flesh, just separate them and flip. So we have both sides now. Flip. And this will quickly get you all the pieces that you need. So here's our finger. Grab all those and flip them. The hand. And then flip all of these. And now we've got a nice UV layout here. We don't have the layout yet. We have all the shells laid out. So we could go in and just grab all of these, go down to arrange and layout, and just do a layout. And that'll drop everything into this 0 to 1 space. And then you can check it with your checkerboard and see how that's looking. All right. Now obviously there's a little bit of room in here for maximizing your UV space. And so you can go in and tweak that. The main thing is we've got the body laid out, duplicated, laid out on our UV space. We just need to add our material to it. So go in here and let's create a new material. I'll just create a new blend, call this body, and we can assign this back. All right, now we're ready to go with the body. So we could take that body, make sure our history is deleted, and we can go ahead and hide that. So the next thing we're going to do are the horns and the sash, which are going to be much easier compared to the body. So we'll do that now. Now let's set up some UVs and materials for the horns and the sashes. So the sashes are going to be pretty straightforward. I'm actually going to just take what we've got here. Now with this one, you can see where it's basically a grid. It's just folded in a certain way. So for us, having a grid layout makes more sense than having it laid out to match this. And so let's go into UV. I'm going to do contour stretch, and I'm just going to reset everything. Let's go ahead and project that. And so let's turn on our checkerboard. I'm going to grab these and I'm going to scale them down in the U direction, in the V direction rather. And so we get some nice square shapes. We can unfold the center, and having it laid out like this will let us use some of those procedurals. It will just make the UV layout cleaner, and it will allow us to get more stuff on our UV layout. All right. And so I'm going to go ahead and delete the history. Now with this other one, I kind of mentioned transferring UVs, but we didn't really do it. And so I'm going to select this one, shift select this one. Let's go ahead and transfer attributes. So you can see now they both share the same map. So this one we can just select and move up. And so they're on the same map. So let's go in and make a new material. Again, doesn't matter what kind of material it is. Blend 10, and I'll call this sash. And we'll add a color to it, kind of this purple. And let's select both of these and assign them to this material. All right, so now that we have that done, next, let's go ahead and make a new material for the horns. This one I will call horns. And let's make this kind of a teal. And then let's come in and add the horns to that. Now all we need to do is finish the UVs for the horns. So the horns, I'm going to go ahead and do an auto map. Again, this is my preference. You could also map each thing by itself. I'm going to grab the front part, and this is going to be sort of my building base. And then I'm going to come in and grab the edges on both sides, stitch, which gives us this main piece here. Okay. I'm going to cut down the middle, and we can actually isolate these. Okay. So we can cut down the middle on both of these. So right like that, not down the middle of the front. We'll cut it, and then we can start to just stitch these together. Again, unfold, stitch, sew, alternated with unfold, and then again we'll stitch those pieces together, ending up at the seam that we created. Go up to the top here, kind of rotate this a little bit. You can tell there's a chunk missing right here, or I'll close this area up. Then we've got a few polygons up here that we need to add. And then we got a few seams up here. All right, so that's the front tooth. Then we just need to do the same thing for the little claws here. And we have 6 of them. We've already, in this case, it's already been duplicated. But if you had them separated, then you can do one at a time. But I'm just going to really quickly just think of it like a tube with one seam going down. And so you just need to decide where that seam is. Probably don't want it to be on the outside. And as you do this more and more, you'll need to unfold less frequently because you'll understand where everything is. And in your mind, you'll know, okay, that's this part of the model, let's say, as you're working with part of it in the UV layout. It'll become more automatic in terms of knowing what part you're looking at. So let's take this part, I'm going to stitch. And then we'll come in on this side. Unfold. Come up to the top, start stitching those together and the bottom. And then as I complete these, I'll just set them aside. So there's two of those. This one will be the main shell for this side. Kind of pull this down. Unfold that. Then we've got a big chunk missing here. All right. So now let's just check and make sure that's on the other side. So like I said before, we can go ahead and map these, or I can just delete these, go ahead and take this geometry and delete it. And then you can see these are all part of one object. And so I'll just go to mesh, separate, and I'll take these three, combine those. Let's delete our history. And let's go ahead and mirror this. So go ahead and mirror it to the other side. These, we'll take the UV shells, move them off, and then take the ones that we just flipped over, go to modify, and we'll flip the UVs. So instead of having to go back and resew all those, we just flip everything. Now we'll come back in here, delete the history, recombine everything, delete the history. Now we're back here, but now we have all the UVs done. So now we can take all of these shells, lay them out. I'm just going to make sure nothing's touching. And you can see layout gives us a good result. With these, you could go in and finesse it a little bit more and try to get more room out of it. So we could come in here and try to stick these in kind of some of these holes here, just looking at the angles. And you may be able to get a little extra room out of it. Pull this up here. This one, kind of pull up here, maybe down at the bottom. And then we could take this whole thing and just scale it up a little bit. All right. So the horns are already assigned. The UVs are done. Let's go ahead and turn off view selected. Since we did all of our splitting and combining, then we'll have to rename our object and drop it back into our group. Let's take the horns and we'll hide the horns. Let's hide the sashes. And then the next thing that we want to do is the head. So we've got the head, the wood, and the padding, and that's basically it. So we will do that next.